So what is Java, right? It's an object-oriented programming language which produces software for multiple platforms. Now let's break it down. Object-oriented programming language. We all know there are majorly two categories of programming language. One is procedural, the other is object-oriented. So in Java, everything is an object, which you can relate to with the real world. They model the real world entities, and whatever action you want to perform, whatever like actions you want to do, the functions that you want from your particular object or entity or your actors of the application. So the objects are going to be the actors of the application through which you will perform each and every action, right? And when I say produces software for multiple platforms, yes, once you write your code and you can run it across multiple operating systems, multiple platforms, right? And that is why we say Java is platform independent. That once you have written your program, you can upgrade your OS and applications independently and your code will remain unaffected. How? We'll talk about it very shortly. Java follows the rule of write once, run anywhere. For example, that you write your code on a Unix machine and you go ahead and run it on Windows and it will just execute perfectly, right? And Java was developed by James Gosling of Sun Microsystems in 1995. It was initially named as Oak, but later on they went ahead and named it Java after a very popular coffee. So that's just a bit of, the history of Java, I would say. So if you see on the right hand side, it is features of Java, right? So let's talk about a few of them. I say Java is simple. Yes, it is simple. Anyone can understand Java and be able to code it once you are clear with the key concepts, right? So it's very easy to understand and code in Java, right? I covered object-oriented when I say that everything in Java is through objects. We follow a bottoms-up approach. That once first we talk about our data, we talk about the objects, and then we move ahead, which is unlike the procedural language, right? Where we follow a top-down approach, right? Then I say that Java is secure. So in Java, there are no pointers. If you come from a C++ background, you know that pointers gave so much hassle to programmers, right? And you had to worry about the memory allocation, memory deallocation. But here, Java takes care of the memory allocation and the deallocation part. And it checks the code before it executes it, right? So that makes Java highly secure. Platform independent, we covered that, once you've written your code, there are no key dependencies, no changes required. So these are the features which make Java so popular in the industry today. It makes it portable as well, right? Like once you have written your program, it cannot be read by any other person because it is in the form of bytecodes. Now, what are bytecodes? Bytecodes, I would say, is somewhere in between your high-level language and your machine language, and it is very easy to convert these bytecodes into any native language and execute it on any platform, right? And given these bytecodes are not directly readable files, even if you are transferring or sharing your Java program across the network or to another system, the file, your code remains secure. Nobody can read it, right? We also say that Java is distributed. Now, distributed as a word we all understand, right? That over the network, if there are other classes or other dependencies, we should be able to access them, all the programs, as if they are sitting on our own machine, right? So Java gives you a feature of RMI, which is beyond the core Java concept. So I would just touch upon it. And so RMI, which makes it very easy for you to access the other dependencies or the other programs across the network, right? So remote method invocation is the feature of Java. And that's why we say Java is distributed as well. And Java is dynamic, yes. Now, when you execute your program, there is lots that is happening at the runtime. Java will make certain calls and gather information only when it requires it for the program to execute. in the beginning, it may just get a certain amount of information, certain dependencies would be resolved, but lot of it is done at the runtime, right? And what makes Java high performing is that there are bytecodes, as I mentioned, which can be translated into native machine, and hence the efficiency of Java programs is very high, right? So these are the features majorly of Java which makes it so popular. So are you clear with them? Any feature that you want me to discuss again? Are you clear with what we have discussed so far? Few yes would help me move ahead. Yeah, thank you, Nazir. Okay, thank you. I read from Deepak, there are some critical functional ways in automation. I'm curious to know about them. Yes. So Deepak, automation related topics and frameworks and all would be discussed down the line as we progress. For this week as well as next, we are majorly focusing on core Java part and the concepts, right? All right. So let's move ahead. And now let's understand the three essential components of Java environment, what really happens in the background when you write your code. So Java development kit, Java runtime environment, and Java virtual machine. These are the three terms, and how they are related and what role do they play, let's understand. So JDK, as you can see from the picture, is the bigger entity inside which you have your JRE and your JVM. Now, JVM is the abstract machine which is executing your bytecodes, which is responsible for reading your program line by line, interpreting it, and executing it, right? And if there is any help that is required by the JVM to execute the code in terms of support files or class libraries, it is the JRE, it is your runtime environment, which provides these files to the JVM and helps in the implementation of JVM, right? So this is your environment to run the programs. And if you have JVM on your machine, any Java code that you have would you will be able to execute it, right? So for the run part, for the execution part, it is enough to have JVM. But as a developer, if you want to develop programs, you need to have JDK, the entire development kit installed on your machine, which has all the development tools which are required. And so JDK has the development tools, it has the JRE, and then it has this JVM, which is the machine executing the code in the background, right? So are we clear with with these three terms? Okay, thank you. So let's proceed. Okay, as a part of the prerequisites which was shared with you, you were supposed to install JDK as well as Eclipse on your machines. Now, I quickly need a confirmation as to who have not done it. Uh, okay, Narcis, Jatin has it. Narcis, I have it. Okay, Deepak has it. Which version should you choose? So Nazir, are you asking about JDK? I'll just quickly go over the link for the ones who've not done it today. And I have done it, but it has got some issues. We'll work on it today. All right, Bandavi. I'll just quickly share the link from where you can download and how you can do it. So yeah, so to download JDK, you will go to this link, which is also shared in the presentation, and it will be shared with you post the session as well. But in parallel, for those who have not done it, I would request you to please download JDK, as we will be very shortly starting with our lab exercises, and we will need the JDK up and running. So as you see, you have this EXEs here, and based on whatever operating system that you have, you can download the executable, and then the installation is pretty straightforward. It is just next, 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 and until you are done, right? So this is for the JDK part, right? And once you have your JDK installed, there are certain settings that you need to do on your system to have it up and running. So how many of you have been able to set the JDK class path and path? What is the difference between exe and zip? Okay, so exe is directly your executable file, Nazir, which you can just download and run it, and the JDK would be installed on your machine, whereas zip, you will have to unzip it, and inside that you will have the files that are required, that is your executable, right? So zipped is basically a compressed, is in compressed format, and you need to unzip it on your machine and then go ahead with the installation. Thank you. Okay, so how many of you have been able to set the path and class path, and is there a need to repeat these steps? I've shared them on the screen as well, that you go to the My Computer properties and then the advanced system settings and environment variables, and then set it to these particular two values. Because once you have these settings ready, class path needs to be set up. Doing it now. Okay, so let's uh, wait. Maybe spend a couple of minutes checking these settings on our machine, and in parallel I'll just cover them. So this is when you right click and go on properties on your My Computer, you will be able to see this advanced system settings here, right? Okay, right. And then inside this, you will be able to see this environment variables, right? Once you click on this, you will be able to see these variables here. Now, given I have my path already set in the class path, I see these variables here. If they're not set, you will have to do a new and give the variable name as well as the value and browse from here. So now when you browse, you need to go to the JDK installation directory and set the path to the bin folder of the JDK directory, right? I'll just show it to you. Um, right? It is typically, if you have not changed C, program files, JDK, and bin, right? There it is. This is the path that should be there on your machine in the value that you set for the path variable C, program files, Java, JDK, and then bin folder, right? And for similarly for class path, it should be set to the lib folder, the library folder inside your JDK folder. So if we can just make quickly set these variables and check on our end.